This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to Wanna Bet on Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am your host, as always, Shay Norling, bringing you some gambling information. And as always, this episode is brought to you by our friends at MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is your home for all types of sports betting, anything you want to bet on all summer. From NBA free agency to college football futures to baseball to football, whatever you might want to be playing, do it at mybookie.ag. And when you sign up, we are giving you a 50% sign up bonus right here at Detroit Sports Podcast. All you have to do when you sign up is enter the code DSP, and we will match your deposit up to 50%, up to $2,000. That means we will go as high as putting $1,000 of free money in your account if you deposit $2,000. Not everybody has $2,000 to deposit, so if you deposit $500, we'll give you $250. Whatever it might be, a bet's a bet. It's what it means to you. And the good news is, at MyBookie, they're going to pay you out fast. I'm talking 48 hours, faster than you could get on a plane to Vegas and fly home, in all likelihood. We are talking 48 hours they are going to pay you out for whatever your winnings may be. It is the easiest system I have dealt with on the internet, and it is my favorite. It is mybookie.ag, and again, with promo code DSP, you will get a 50% sign-up bonus. At MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. All right, today it is June 19th. I have good bet, bad bet, and an interesting turn on it. I also have my top 5 fantasy football picks at every position, plus a sleeper at every position. And then I'm going to give you some NBA stuff for early favorites for next season, because the Raptors are our NBA champions, which may devolve into a rant about the Celtics from me. We'll see, because I can't seem to keep that anger out of me. And that's about it for this episode. And next week, I'm going to come up with some long shots for the NFL, for college football, and give you the best bets there, besides like the obvious ones. You know, Alabama, Clemson are clearly going to be the favorites. I don't need to do a whole episode talking about how Alabama and Clemson are going to be the favorites to win the college football title. I don't need to do an entire episode talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs, the New England Patriots, the Cleveland Browns, and the Green Bay Packers are the top 4 teams to win the Super Bowl next season. Los Angeles Rams, you want to throw in a 5th. Don't need to do a whole episode. I can do an episode on long shots. I can do an episode on win totals, some fun ones. I have a really good bet about Notre Dame that is practically free money. It is literally free money. And I may give that one, I'll give that one to you today. I'll lead the show with it. Because I'm looking at college football over-unders. I'm coming up with some ideas, coming up with the win total ideas. Notre Dame win total 9.5. The under is the freest money I have ever seen in my life. They set the win total for Notre Dame at 9.5 wins. Notre Dame has 9 opponents this year that play Notre Dame coming off of a bye week. 9 teams have their bye week before they play Notre Dame. It's hammer the under on 9.5. It's absurd. I've never seen a schedule imbalance quite this severe in my life. But, hey, bad for Notre Dame, which is good for me. I don't like Notre Dame. All right, good bet, bad bet. I'm going to start with the bad bet, and then I have 2 good bets. The bad bet was, I put it out in a tweet last week. If you saw it, I had the Bruins money line in the Stanley Cup Game 7, and I was wrong completely, entirely. The Bruins got blown out, 5-1? And it's just not a great look for me on that bet. But, hey, I'm not huge into hockey. I just had a feeling coming home, Boston always gets the better of St. Louis, but St. Louis was due, I suppose, and the Blues took home a win there. Not a great bet on my part. Fortunately, if you were paying attention to what I was doing with the NBA Finals, you made a lot of money. One, Finals MVP was Kawhi Leonard. That means on the bet that I came on the show a couple weeks ago and gave you the Finals MVP odds, I made 75 units. I will not disclose the actual amount of money because I don't feel comfortable doing it, even though it doesn't really matter. But if you listened, Kawhi Leonard, 75 units. On a $100 bet, $75. you won, or a $50 bet. It was I can't remember exactly the breakdown, but you get the point. You won money on the MVP. Thought it had a chance to be Pascal Siakam, would have won a ton of money. I'm talking $950. But unfortunately, it was Kawhi. Still won money. The other one, Raptors in 6. Guess what the odds were on that? Plus 950. Yeah, that's where I won $950. Raptors in 6 was by far my best bet of the year. An absolute way out there snipe of a long shot at plus 950, almost plus 1,000. I mean, we're talking about a 10-1 long shot, and I nailed it. And then the other one I had was Raptors in Game 6. I had to cover the spread, to win the game straight up, which was plus 115, I think. And I put a very sizable wager on that. In the round, I'm not going to just know it was the biggest single bet I have ever placed in my life was on Raptors money line to win straight up in Game 6, and I also had the over on believe it was 213. All of those things were true. All of those things occurred. Which, hey, sometimes I know what I'm talking about. When it comes to hockey, take it with a grain of salt. When it came to the NBA playoffs this year, I, for the most part, nailed them. Once they got there. The Bucks stuff that I had, the Bucks, I'll say this. Somebody laughed at me because I said I thought the Eastern Conference was going to win in 5 or 6 games in the finals, no matter what. If Kevin Durant came back, if Kevin Durant didn't come back, the Eastern Conference was going to win. Look what happened. He tried to come back, he didn't. The Eastern Conference won in 6 games. I think the Bucks would have won in 6. I think the Raptors did win in 6. I think if the Sixers have a backup center, maybe they're your NBA champion right now. I think that's it. So if you want the early favorites for next year, people are really high on the Lakers. Right now, I think betting is even closed on futures for next season because free agency has been so just insanely chaotic. And it has. It's already been one of the more chaotic free agencies that I've seen. But right now, 2020 NBA championship winner, the Lakers are the favorite at plus 250. I would not touch that with a 10 fucking football. I wouldn't get anywhere near that. That is the weirdest. I don't get how they are up there. I don't know. I have no clue how that happened. Golden State Warriors at plus 900 should be not even close to me. They should be one of the lower teams. I don't know that they're going to make the playoffs, let alone win anything. 2 teams here that stick out, the Toronto Raptors at plus 600 and the Milwaukee Bucks at plus 650. What's important here is the Los Angeles Clippers are at plus 1,000. If they get Kawhi, they switch spots with the Raptors immediately from plus 1,000 to plus 600. Matter of fact, if they get Kawhi Leonard and they still have another max slot, which they will, I think the Clippers overtake the Lakers as the favorite to win the title, which is why right now, if you want to put money on the Clippers at plus 1,000, this is the best you will ever have them for next season. I know we're way out, but I'm telling you, plus 1,000 for the Clippers is the best odds you are ever going to find for them in 2020. Because once free agency opens and they get Kawhi Leonard, they're going to skyrocket to the top of this list. The other one, Milwaukee Bucks at plus 650. The Eastern Conference has become probably as bad as it was 2 years ago when the hospital Celtics were able to take LeBron James to 7 games. I think the Indiana Pacers have a chance to be one of the better teams, but they lose Bojan Bogdanovic. I think, the Brooklyn Nets, they're going to get Kyrie Irving. They're going to lose D'Angelo Russell. It's I don't know that they're that much better because I think Kyrie is just a slightly better, albeit older version of D'Lo. I don't think it's a huge improvement. So I think that team just kind of stays the same unless they get the second guy, Jimmy Butler. Then we're talking about a team that's probably a lot better. Or maybe if they bring in Al Horford, because Al Horford's now leaving the Celtics as well. If you bring in Kyrie and Al Horford, that's a better team. Is it winning the title good? No. Is it top 4 in the East good? Yeah. But I think it's a year where you look at Milwaukee in the East. If they bring everyone back, of course. You got to bring back Brogdon. You got to bring back Middleton. You have Giannis. You have a great coach. You have a front office that knows what it takes, that's willing to do it. Bring these guys back, and you're looking at a team that, has a chance to just be that much better than everyone else. Because right now, Toronto's the second best team in the Eastern Conference to me. Kawhi Leonard leaves. I don't know where they fall because I think it's immediately a fire sale. If Kawhi leaves, I think it's immediately Kyle Lowry's on the market. Everybody suddenly is on the market. Everybody's shoppable. I look at the rest of the Eastern Conference. The Sixers, I guess, it would just be the Bucks and the Sixers. And I think the Sixers would be a distant second because of their lack of shooting. And the way that they don't have a ton with their cap structure, they don't have a ton that they can do. Embiid might be the best player in the Eastern Conference. Giannis, marginally better, I would argue. So you're looking at Giannis as the best player in the East, on the best team in the East next season. How good's the West? Really is where you want to come down to. Can they beat the Lakers, the Bucks? Yeah, I think they could. If Kawhi goes to the Clippers and they add somebody like a Jimmy Butler, could they beat the Clippers? That I don't know. Kawhi already downed him this year. Kawhi is a killer, is what it comes down to. Where do my Celtics fall in the odds for next year? Well, they don't, because they are not going to contend even in the slightest. And I want to save this for. I'm going to save this for the mashup for the most part. I just want to yell and scream and shout and be the passionate sports fan that I am and give you all of the anger that I am feeling right now towards Kyrie Irving. I hate this man. And I'll give you a better rant on the mashup, but I hate this man. He destroyed my franchise. Ruined it. Came in with guarantees of staying, with promises of re-signing, with dreams of his number being in the rafters, all so that he could cower it out when they lose in the second round. When the going gets tough, he can bow out and go to fucking Brooklyn. I hate this man. He ruined the Anthony Davis trade. He ruined Horford coming back. He ruined himself coming back. I hate this man. I cannot put it into simpler terms. I absolutely despise Kyrie Irving. Today, June 19th, I despise Kyrie Irving. All right, now that I'm in such a happy mood, I'll give you a top 5 NFL fantasy football, top 5 players by position, plus 1 sleeper. Starting with the quarterbacks, number 1, it's obvious. It's last year's league MVP. It's one of the most special and prolific passers I have ever seen. It's Patrick Mahomes. This can change. There's an asterisk on this because nobody knows what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill. And I am somebody who strongly believes in there are 2 players who are more valuable than any other players offensively in the game of football. Saquon Barkley is one. Tyreek Hill is the other. Saquon Barkley will put the numbers up to go with this. Tyreek Hill won't. But Tyreek Hill will keep your defense honest. More honest than any other wide receiver would. Just because of his speed. Just because of his electricity. He can burn you on the line of scrimmage, and if he does, it's a touchdown. There's no safety that's catching up to him. You can't double him. He doesn't deserve a double. But he's 5'7". What are we going to do? Double him? But he'll just blow past you. And he makes it's incredibly difficult to guard. I think he's one of the most electrifying players in the NFL. I also think he should never play another snap. And if he does, it will damage my ability to watch the sport. But that's beside the point. This is simply the asterisk on Patrick Mahomes being the number 1 best quarterback in fantasy football. If he loses Tyreek Hill, he's down a weapon. And it's a year where I'll get the tight ends, but I don't think there's a tier 1 for tight ends. If Patrick Mahomes goes down a weapon, he's still going to be good. But is he going to be as good as the number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5 guy on this list? Probably better than the number 5 guy. But I'd probably bump the next 3 guys up. Number 2 is Andrew Luck. Guy who had a bounce-back year, damn near won MVP, playing behind the best offensive line he's ever played behind, with a tackle in Quentin Nelson, who deserved to be, why am I blanking on the award, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I knew it wasn't going to be Quentin Nelson because it was going to have to go to a skill position, but Quentin Nelson absolutely deserved to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was that good. He revolutionized that line. I mean, he brought a renaissance to an offensive line that is historically dreadful. single-handedly. Quentin Nelson's incredible. And Andrew Luck being able to play behind that while having weapons. And then they went out and drafted Paris Campbell out of Ohio State and gave him another guy. He's got Eric Ebron. He's got Jack Doyle. He's got Paris Campbell. He's got T.Y. Hilton. There are guys he can throw to. I think he's poised to have a really, really good year. By the way, their defense, not bad. For once, their defense is pretty good. And if that defense can keep that offense off the field, if the defense can keep that offense on the field, Andrew Luck is going to have tons of opportunities to get the job done. I think he's poised for a great season, and if Tyreek Hill doesn't play, I think he's going to be the best fantasy football quarterback in the league. Another guy I'm looking at, number 3, Baker Mayfield. I know it's tough to put this guy up here so early, but he graded out incredibly. If you care about Pro Football Focus, if it means anything to you, he graded out really, really well last year. He performed really well in clutch situations. The interception in Baltimore at the end of the year, I know, is rough. But again, he wasn't playing with the greatest cast in the world. He had Jarvis Landry and what else? I mean, Nick Chubb, sure. Now he's got Odell Beckham Jr., he's got Jarvis Landry, he's got Nick Chubb, he might have Duke Johnson, depending on what goes down with the trade situation. He has an offense that's going to be really, really good. Maybe the best in the AFC. Again, if Tyreek Hill doesn't play. Maybe the best in the AFC. I think Baker Mayfield's poised to have an incredible breakout year. And it's going to be a year where I don't see a sophomore slump. I see a guy cementing his position as the future of quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he becomes a top 5 QB fantasy or otherwise. Just a straight up top 5 quarterback this season. Number 4, a familiar name, Aaron Rodgers. They have a coach who supposedly he likes, or at least he can push around. Mike McCarthy, he just didn't respect at all. He was calling plays at the line of scrimmage because he just didn't give a fuck what Mike McCarthy put into the headset. Now Aaron Rodgers has a guy who he might be more comfortable working with. He has a new offense. He has a system he might enjoy playing in more. And he's got a great wide receiver in Davante Adams. By the way, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks who's ever played this football game. So Aaron Rodgers, to me, deserves to be on this list, as he always is. Unless he's injured, he's a top 5 quarterback. Fantasy is no different. This is Aaron Rodgers remains a late second round, early third round pick when you're taking your quarterback in this year's draft, should you be going snake route. I prefer an auction draft. Maybe I'll do an episode on that. I strongly prefer an auction draft to a snake, but if you do a snake, that's where Aaron Rodgers belongs to, late second, early third. Patrick Mahomes, Andrew Luck, Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers. The only 4 quarterbacks I would recommend taking in the second round. And then my sleeper, number 5 is Russell Wilson, who I guess he could fall into the same category of a second round pick, possibly early third, late second. But just every year, this guy manages to get it done. If there's a guy who deserves to win MVP damn near every single year just based on the value that he brings to his team, it's Russell Wilson. The Seahawks last year had no business being in the playoffs, but they were because of Russell Wilson. It wasn't because of Pete Carroll, who lost his freaking mind in the playoffs with play calling. No, it was because of Russell Wilson, who had probably his best passing season yet. And his passing just keeps getting better. And then my sleeper is Mitchell Trubisky, just because I think another year of Mike Nagy, another offseason of Mike Nagy, it's going to be good for him. It's one of the more creative, kind of gadgety offenses, but they have pieces, and they have a really good defense. Sometimes the best offense is a great defense. And that's where, I think that they're just going to be able to keep the offense churning onto the field again and again. Give Mitch more opportunities. He has to demonstrate a little bit better throwing distance. He tends to lose his accuracy, especially when he's trying to throw darts. When he's throwing lobs, his long distance throwing, anything over 10 yards, right now not great. I think he can develop that. I think he can start to look a lot better this year. This is, if you miss out on those top 5 guys and you want to wait till the 6th, 7th, 8th round to take a quarterback, Trubisky's a guy you could look at because he'll be around. If you're doing an auction draft and you're looking for a guy you could get for $10 or less, Trubisky's it. Mahomes, Luck, Mayfield, Rodgers, and Wilson, I would recommend spending anywhere from $25 to $35 on that player in an auction draft. Running back, probably going to be the number one pick in every single draft because people will not learn the fact of the matter that running backs are replaceable in football. It is also true in fantasy football. Wide receiver is a more important position in fantasy football than running back. It's a fact. I'm helping you. You want to win your league? Listen to this. Do not take a running back in the first 5 picks. If you have one of the first 5 picks and you take a running back, it is a mistake. If you spend more than $50 on a running back, it is a mistake. Do not do it. You can find value deep. Philip Lindsay is projected to be what? Like I think 20th somewhere in running backs this year on the sheet I was just looking at, a cheat sheet. He's in the 20s by expert projections. You can find Philip Lindsay that late. He's value. Look at what happened last year with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley in my auction draft last year went for $69. He didn't produce in the second half of the year. This is my feeling on the running back position. Do not overvalue it. Ever. Do not go all in the first round. First 5 picks, no running back. Over $50, no running back. Don't do it. I've been doing it for years. I had a rough fantasy football season last year, but the 2 seasons before I won the league and I was in the championship game. And I have strongly gone no running back. In snake drafts, I'm not touching a running back till the 3rd round. Seriously, I don't do it. And it works. I promise you it works. Saquon Barkley is the number 1 running back. Not a ton to get into. He's one of the best players in the NFL. He's one of the most impactful offensive players in the NFL. Again, it's a replaceable position. Don't do it. Don't fall into the trap. Saquon Barkley must be the number 1 pick. No, don't do it. Number 2, Ezekiel Elliott. He'll go in the top 5, I'm sure. Don't do it. I'm telling you. But Ezekiel Elliott, for years, he's running behind one of the better offensive lines in football. He keeps that offense steady. I mean, they have Dak Prescott. They need a good running back because they have a bad quarterback. Ezekiel Elliott's that guy. He's really talented. He's electric. He's quick. He's big. He's strong. He's everything you want in that position. Number 3 is Christian McCaffrey. Now, this is a rare instance. Christian McCaffrey is a guy that I would look at in the first 5 picks. He's a guy I might consider spending over $50 on. And the reason why, maybe not over 50, 45. I'd go 45 for Christian McCaffrey. And the reason why is because of what he offers in the receiving game. He's almost a wide receiver. He is what Dion Lewis was to the Patriots, what James White was to the Patriots, except better, like a lot better, because he can also run between the tackles. His outside running game is fantastic. His screen game is fantastic. His route running is fantastic. He's a really smart football player. He has great hands, and if you're in a point per reception league, he's going to do you wonders. I love Christian McCaffrey. I would absolutely take a flyer on Christian McCaffrey earlier than Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott. Another guy that I would go a little earlier than Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott might spend some more money on is Alvin Kamara. And again, Saquon and Zeke are going to be the top 2 because they're the best running backs in football. McCaffrey and Kamara might be better fantasy options because of their ability to pass catch, because of their ability to be versatile in offenses. They are both really good players. And then my number 5 guy is Melvin Gordon, who, if he can stay healthy, he is as consistent, as talented, and as good as any of the 4 I just mentioned. And then my sleeper, a guy named Darrell Henderson, 3rd-round draft pick by the Los Angeles Rams. And when I mentioned the Los Angeles Rams, you can maybe figure out why he's my sleeper. They have an unreliable running back in front of him. As good as Todd Gurley is, and he is good, when he is healthy and at his best, he's one of the best running backs I have ever seen when he's healthy. If he's not healthy, which could be often next year, could be all of next year, his backup will get carries. And this is why I don't take running backs early, because backups get carries. Backups cut into carries. Backups like to shine. Remember when Le'Veon Bell got hurt and D'Angelo Williams went off? Darrell Henderson. He's a guy nobody's heard of. He's a guy you can get for cheap. I'm talking $5. I'm talking 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th round. You can get Darrell Henderson. and he has a chance to be a really strong player. He might even be waiver wire. But I'm telling that's a sleeper for me. A guy who will be behind Todd Gurley, a guy who will cut into Todd Gurley's carries, a guy who the Rams reportedly love. So that's a guy that I like a lot at that position. Wide receiver. These are the guys I would take in the top 5 picks. All 5 of them, in order. DeAndre Hopkins, the best wide receiver in football. He's been the best wide receiver in football for like 3 years. Everybody likes to talk about Antonio Brown because he's flashy and dramatic. DeAndre Hopkins is businesslike. He's a robot, and he's incredible. He has been the best wide receiver in football for the past 3 years, in my opinion. No different this year. His quarterback is coming along, just missed being in the top 5 for me. I mean, he is 6th. Deshaun Watson is probably the 6th best quarterback available in this year's fantasy draft. He's coming along brilliantly. Hopkins is incredible. Like, one of the better wide receiver talents I've seen. Easy number 1 pick for me. Easy number 1 pick, easy $60 guy. And he was last year. He is my favorite player this fantasy season by a long ways. Number 2, and this again, the next 4 are pretty interchangeable. It's DeAndre Hopkins and then these next 4, whoever's available. But these to me are the top 5 picks in the draft. Period. End of story. Devontae Adams had an incredible year a year ago, demonstrated why he's so good, why he's so valuable to Aaron Rodgers. And look, I think he's poised, again, in a new offense with a coach that Rodgers really likes. I think he's poised to have an incredible year. Julio Jones is number 3. He has to get more active in the red zone. That's my only worry when it's Julio. And maybe he should be 5, but what he offers between the 20s is unlike anything anyone else offers, period. He is such an incredible threat. And if he can become more active in the red zone, if he can become an intrinsic part of that offense when it's inside the 20s, if he can find ways to get open in the end zone, if he can find ways to be effective on the fade, if he can find ways to get over the middle and get open, if the Falcons can find ways to scheme Julio open in the red zone, he could vault to number 1 on this list. Number 4, Odell Beckham Jr. He's amazing. We don't need to talk about how amazing he is. He already is on video doing one-handed catches at Browns practices. Dude's incredible. There's not a ton I can say for him other than, dude, you're playing opposite Jarvis Landry. You're playing in an offense that has 2 fantastic running backs and a really good young quarterback and a really smart coaching staff. It's great place for him to be. It's like a new lease on life because he's not getting passes from the mouth breather anymore. He's a great spot. I think he's going to have a great year. And then number 5, the guy who broke records last season, Michael Thomas. Another dude who had a breakout year. He's still really young, out of Ohio State. Got a great quarterback throwing to him. Drew Brees, I'm a little worried about this year. This is why Michael Thomas is number 5. If he were on any other team, he might be number 1. But I'm a little worried about Drew Brees because of what we saw in the second half of the season. Lost some zip on the deep ball. Lost the ability to really put it out there. Are we going to rely on Taysom Hill to really come along and be the Saints quarterback? I don't know. It's tough, but Michael Thomas to me is a guy who really could have another great year, and he's just a rock. He's a steady as she goes kind of guy. And then my sleeper is D.D. Westbrook, because I look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their defense is still terrific, and now they have a quarterback. And while it's not Tom Brady, it's Nick Foles, and it's better than Blake Bortles because you could put a corpse at quarterback, and it would be better than Blake Bortles. D.D. Westbrook is in a wide receiver core that was supposed to be one of the best in football. Hasn't ever earned that spot. I think he's a really solid wide receiver too, and he's getting wide receiver 3 love. This is a guy, again, you could get for $5, maybe less. You could get him in the extremely late rounds, and I think he could be really effective. Tight end. I don't think there's a tier 1 for tight ends this year. With no Rob Gronkowski, with no, Travis Kelce, but it just doesn't, there's no guy that's like, yes, you have to go get this tight end. There is no tight end I would take earlier than the 3rd round. There is no tight end I would spend more than $20 to $25 on. Obviously, the best is Travis Kelce. the next two, George Kittle and Zach Ertz. It's just kind of here it is. They're guys. They're good guys, but they're guys. It's nobody that's going to make or break your team. I don't think this position is going to make or break your team. Those are my top three. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Zach Ertz. Not a whole lot to say about them other than they play in good systems. Travis Kelce plays in one of the more complex and exciting systems in an Andy Reid offense. George Kittle plays in a Kyle Shanahan coach team with Jimmy Garoppolo hopefully healthy. And Zach Ertz, he's got an MVP candidate who just got paid in Carson Wentz. Can Carson Wentz stay healthy? Because that's my worry with Ertz this year is if with the Eagles really is if Wentz gets hurt, they don't have Nick Foles anymore. Nick Foles went and got his money. Who's your backup quarterback? So that's why there's no tier 1 here for me. And then number 4, O.J. Howard. Number 5, Hunter Henry. Not a ton to say about any of these guys. Hunter Henry, I think, is poised to have a comeback season after the ACL injury last year. He's on a good team. He's got a good quarterback in Phillip Rivers. There's a steady running game there that he can kind of help with play action with Melvin Gordon. But my sleeper is one of my more interesting sleepers, one of the guys I'm keeping a kind of closer eye on, Detroit's own TJ Hawkinson. I think he has a chance to be Gronk, and I'm not the only one. That's the comparison he got going into the draft. Not saying he's going to be Gronk this year, but hey, if it's true that Matthew Stafford was playing last season with a broken back, that's probably why he wasn't throwing great. So while I'm not ready to let Matthew Stafford off the hook, because boy, oh boy, was last year bad. And it came at a bad time when I was giving him excuses, when I was defending him ardently. And now the broken back thing isn't an excuse, or is it really like, wow, maybe we should take another look at this guy? I think TJ Hawkinson offers a layer. He's better than Eric Ebron was. I'll tell you that. And I think he offers a layer to this offense where they want to look like New England. That's the confusion. Is do they want to look like New England or do they want to look like Seattle? Either way, they're going to try to use a tight end. And I think Hawkinson's a really good option. And then defenses. The last ones. Chicago, no need to talk in length. They were amazing last year. Anytime you have Khalil Mack torturing guys from the edge, you're going to be great. Jacksonville, again, last year, they were still really good. Their offense sucked. So the defense was on the field too much. But even being on the field as much as they were, they put up good numbers. They have great cornerbacks. They have great linebackers. They have a good front seven. They are a very good offense or defense. And they're well coached. I think they bounce right back. And now that they have an offense that might keep them off the field a little bit, cook them with gas. The LA Rams, just because it seems like they have everyone in the world. And they were good a year ago. Again, another well-coached team. Despite the offensive mindset, they put the money where it needed to go, and they went and got guys, and they're just a good all-around solid defense. Usual suspects here, the Baltimore Ravens. Steady as she goes. They always have a great defense. It's their mindset. It's John Harbaugh football. It is their mindset in Baltimore. Hard-nosed, defensive football, and it works for them. That's why they were in the playoffs a year ago with Lamar Jackson. Can't throw more than 10 yards. And then Minnesota, which they're just 2 years ago, they were the best defense in football. They've been able to turn a lot of that roster around as long as they have Xavier Rhodes, as long as they have Trey Waynes, as long as they have the steadiness that comes in their middle linebacking and their front five. They look good, and they will be good. My sleeper year, New England. It's always the best coached unit. Doesn't always start as the best unit. Always ends top 10 in scoring. Always. Always. I mean, people thought it was Matt Patricia, the rocket scientist. Then he leaves. What does Brian Flores do? They look awful the first 3 weeks, and they became a top 10 unit and won the Super Bowl. They held the best offense in football to 3 points. Or the second best offense in football to 3 points in a Super Bowl. Made Jared Goff look lost. They spent 3 quarters hammering the Chiefs. I mean, people don't talk enough how the Patriots really, if you want to go look at that game, the Patriots definitely had a pathway to holding the Chiefs under 20 points. They shot themselves in the foot. They made that game close. Every single year. So whoever the Patriots bring in as defensive coordinator, whether Greg Schiano came in and left, whatever it ends up being, Watch for them to be top 10 because at the end of the day, it's Belichick's defense. At the end of the day, it's guys like Jamie Collins who came back. It's turnover and guys who understand to do their job. The McCourtys, they have good corners. All of the guys that they have just know their jobs, and they do them well. You know, Stephen Gilmore might be the best cornerback in football. He can eliminate wide receivers as well as any cornerback that Belichick has ever had, as well as Revis could in 2014, as well as Asante Samuel could earlier, as well as Ty Law could, as well as, like, he is probably one of the 3 best corners that Belichick has ever had. And I think they just stand the chance to be one of the 4 or 5 best defenses in football. They aren't going to get that respect because they might flounder early in the year. But every single year, they end up top 10 without fail. All right, that's all I got for you this week on Wanna Bet. I will see you next Wednesday. I will also be on the mashup on Monday, of course, so look for that with Kevin McCann. And remember, mybookie.ag, promo code DSP, we will match your deposit up to 50%. Have a great week.